Open! Yeah, I dig it. Damage report.
Everything's fucked!
Yeah, sounds about right. Alright, first things first. Let's fix this mess. I am a powerful wizard. Magic. Alright, next up, I guess we can take a look at... No, hold on. Hold on, I wasn't ready. I'm not ready. I'm not... Big Z Studios and No More Robots bring us a title that probably literally everyone has played at this point and everyone has talked about, but I was declared legally dead and no-lifing Zelda, so here we are, and if you haven't heard about it yet or played it, well, okay, let's go! What they bring us is quite an interesting proposition, not made in Build or GZ Doom, instead made entirely with Unity. Slayers X, Terminal Aftermath, Vengeance of the Slayer brings us an insane look into a very specific cultural period of the 90s that everyone loves to remember, but people oftentimes forget just how weird it was. Take obvious Limp Bizkit references at the level transition, add the ICP meets Violator enemies, stilt the animations and voice acting and make those cutscenes crispier than playing Night Trap on your Sega Nomad with a 4K screen, then slather it all in nuclear green and you start to see how it's not just capturing a style of game, but a strange atmospheric zeitgeist of an area just before Y2J hit the scene. There's more a blast core and redneck rampage about the game than there is a Duke Nukem or blood, is really what I'm getting at. Zane, the most rad motherfucker on the planet and who I want to be when I grow up, is an X-Slayer, a secret cabal of predator and natural rude dudes with bad tudes who, I don't really know why they exist, they just kind of do. Also, he's the CE of some kind of O and everyone loves him and he's totally skated the devil's spine and next week he's gonna hit Dead Man's Curves with no pads on and if he doesn't biff it, he'll be prom king and he fucking wears Jenkos and fuck you, he's the coolest motherfucker on the planet, you're the one who sucks! We start off with what I can only assume is some kind of super-powered training session in which a lady who definitely has a good relationship with her father gets called into work.
I am supposed to be up for my job at Slothbos tonight.
I'm not even supposed to be here today! Oh, fuck you!
And then Psychos attack, and I'm just gonna leave this here.
Just in, Psychos blew up Zane's mom when she was driving her car home.
I must revenge her.
Everything in this game is perfect! But not everything about the game is. As a matter of fact, the gameplay kind of goes nowhere until the third to last level. Weapons are mostly standard fare, just having their own little specific flair for the game. Your starting weapons are dual pistols adorned with the X-Slayer's logo. Your shotgun is a glass cannon, literally, and Zane gets the S-Blade, which is a mystical mall ninja weapon. The small-scale grenade launcher takes the form of a crossbow that launches X-Sludge, which then spawns rats who will attack enemies. Then there's the minigun, which they also state acts as a chainsaw, but you can't use it if it's empty, so if it does, it's meaningless, but what it does have an effect on is that it allows the player short bouts of flight, which can then be used for secret hunting and traversal. Then there's the 90s boomer shooter tri-rocket launcher, which I'm pretty sure you know the exact inspiration for it. It all feels and functions exactly how you would expect, and it all, aside from the personalized flair, doesn't do anything new or interesting. It's not until Zane acquires the X Talisman and masters the Satsui no Hado that he gets anything that really brings new shit to the table. And yes, it does exactly what it sounds like, Shinku Hadoken, but it lets you fly while firing. Enemies will feel kind of tanky at points as well, and they will ramp it up as the game goes on and they introduce spawners and hordes of enemies. After your would-be girlfriend gets injected with science and becomes hotter and you have to kill her, you're given the tri-rocket launcher as well as the talisman, at which point the game gets a lot more serious Sam in the sheer sizes of hordes they throw at you. It sort of takes a hard turn after Rocket Wolf Boss with no restraint on just giving the player ultimate power and beefy enemies to take on, but getting to that point gets kind of ammo dumpy, especially on the higher difficulties. The Redneck Rampage comparison I think is accurate, except that they make the levels actually flow really well and key hunting isn't a goddamn nightmare, and it overall functions a lot more linearly than most boomer shooters go for these days. The unfortunate side of the gameplay and level design is that it's just as simple and straightforward as a lost game from the 90s would be, and overall it relies on the writing, performance, aesthetic, and visual identity to carry the experience. And overall, I think they really nail it. A soundtrack coming off more like an indie alt-rock from the 90s rather than relying on the generic, clean, gent light that has become a little too popular for boomer shooters in the wake of Mick Gordon, and an art direction that comes off a lot more as the Wicked Witch of the West to Vaporwave's Glenda, and the strange little attitudes and word replacement that the second I heard I recognized, as it's something me and a close friend do pretty regularly because we think it's funny.
This is the S-Blade, Mikey Psyche's signature weapon. If the yielder has 95 or more hat blood.
And yes, that close friend is in fact the executive producer. There's your credit. Fuck you, get off my ass! Unless you're gonna fuck it! The game is overall pretty hard to describe, and it just kind of has to be experienced to be understood. It's like Doom and Freaked had a baby, and the baby was a huge fan of green jello.
Machismo. Real cheese for real men. Now in a handy aluminum dispenser.
So, me! I'm an alternate timeline, much more lame version of Zane, basically, and I know what you're thinking, and the answer is yes and no. Yes, I did in fact consider buying a pair of Jenkos for this episode, but they're 300 fucking smackers these days, and no, I will not be growing out a soul patch. I look utterly ridiculous with facial hair. I look more utterly ridiculous with facial hair. But there are some very interesting factors about it all. If you keep your eyes open, Level 3 doesn't just involve you uncovering your stepdad's plot, but also hides hint about the post-game final boss sting. X-Slayers are friends to rats, and as a former adherent to the cult of the King of Rats, I 100% gel. But more importantly, each level has secret missions to discover and complete to further solidify the relationship between it's meaningless. There is no function, and if you get anything other than an achievement, I didn't notice. It's one of the many interactable things the game has that can reward the player, but between it and the mini-golf, there are a few that go absolutely nowhere except giving the player even more of Zane's wonderful little attitude.
Attention customers, it's store manager Mevin here. If you smell something weird smelling, it's just my bong that I keep under my desk because I like to huff my own turds.
There's a lot hidden in plain sight in the game, and it builds a world and a series of events that some are hard to really tell if they're real or if they're just part of the kayfabe, and overall builds a world that is just off-kilter enough to want to be engrossed in and grossed out by. And it's not just turds and psycho prostitutes. The game has some cutesy little humor about it as well. It takes place in Idaho, and major events center around the Boise Potato Festival. And people will laugh, but I attend a yearly local apple festival that is called that, despite never having been apple-focused and the orchards that it was named after having been demolished some 3 or 4 years ago at this point. It's alternative culture in a place where it struggles to belong, and you're goddamn right I vibe. I vibe with it hard. Overall, it's very layered in its presentation and characterization, and that's a big area that the game focuses around, so you have to be willing to accept that over a shooter building on what came before. It's a very specific era of culture made by a man emulating the days of Rockstar devs before they were just stuck-up dipweeds insulting genres they don't like, or refusing to admit that they've retired until half a decade after it was readily apparent to anyone with fucking eyeballs. There's a lot, and it's strange in the best ways. I've already stated that it's hard to talk about because the game is far more focused on the experience than solid gameplay, and make no mistake, it's not a shitpost, it's something far bigger. It's one of those games where substance is lacking, but that's because the style is the substance, and that's kind of hard to quantify as a product with a price tag. I always try to think about what value a game brings to the table to justify its price versus the hard work and accomplishments of the developers, and Slayers X is kind of a jagged little pill to swallow in that regard. I absolutely love it. I love everything about it, and I'm genuinely hoping we get Slayers X2: Abortion Rebirth: Rise of the Z-Slayer: First Blood Part 2 EX plus Alpha featuring Dante from the Devil May Cry series! So obviously I want it to succeed, but there is a bit of a selfishness to that because I want more of this and I want to see where it can go, but can I recommend it to people who want a genuinely good game that is working with a history of the medium and genre, and not just Rocco's Modern Life but with guns? It's $17 for a roughly 3.5 hour experience that was unfortunately cut short. Yes, I say it's worth it, but I like weird shit like this. I love the aesthetic, the atmosphere, the intentional stilting of everything. The gameplay is just perfectly comfy, but not bringing anything new to the table, and it has no qualms breaking your back, fucking your ass, and making you humble on hard. But a lot of people aren't as into that as I am. They're going to look at what's on offer for the price point and think about other games in the same genre that offer much greater options for gameplay and longevity, and it becomes hard for me to say that it's worth it. Time investment? Definitely, but $17? Well, there's a demo on Steam and it's covered by Game Pass, so you have a couple more ways to second opinion around and come to your own conclusions after this. Me? I fucking love it. If there ever comes a day when a physical release becomes an option, I'm gonna be the first motherfucker to purchase it, and if Zane needs to crowdfund to make a sequel, I'll shill it on my channel. I want more, and I'll do what it takes to get it. I just can't say for sure if it meets the price tag, even if it really does for me. I'm the TheNecroswanson, and you can go fuck yourselves.